Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Wednesday today, a beautiful Wednesday, by the way, outside and inside. All of our guests today, including Jeff Paterson, standing by. Although Rick did eat beans last night.
Kidney beans.
Brought to you by Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Canucks losing to the Golden Knights last night by a score of 4-3. San Jose at Rogers Arena tomorrow. Here to talk about it, as always on a Wednesday, from Sekeres and Price and the Rink-Wide podcast, it's Jeff Paterson. Jeff, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. And I was thinking, this is a big week for Rick here. Barbashev was in town last night. Bonov's here tomorrow, so two of your favorites on the homestand.
Gavrikov could be here July 1st.
Yeah. I can't wait. Okay, so 4-3, Canucks lose. Rick Tocchet afterwards says 3 to 4 players didn't play to his team's identity. A couple of questions with that. First of all, we talked about Kuzmenko not playing the last, I believe, 12 minutes. Any idea who else he was talking about? Perhaps Beauvillier.
Yeah, we saw him get to the line blender late in the hockey game, and he talked about how he wanted guys that were wingers that were willing to go get pucks for Elias Paterson. And so Connor Garland got an opportunity to play with Paterson. We haven't seen that an awful lot. Podkolzin had a couple of late shifts, and I'm down for that because I do want to see them kickstart Vasily Podkolzin here, and I'm all for him getting opportunities to play higher in the lineup. But the tough love continues for Kuzmenko. Now, we've seen in the past that he has responded and bounced back, so I'm not worried about him, but clearly Rick Tocchet saw something or didn't see something in his game last night. I thought, and Rick's post-game comments are fascinating. I always, there's usually a nugget or two. There's a real candor to the way that he talks about the game, reveals some of his insight. And I thought it was interesting to say, when I heard him say how he had prepared the team for this Vegas forecheck that has two guys in, and the Canucks they had to do a better job of, getting the puck past the forecheckers and moving it. He always talks about north-south. And then, you look at, Ethan Bear on the first goal, brutal giveaway. That kind of stuff happens, but still trying to go east-west instead of north-south, and that blew up in his face. And then the second goal was the one that I thought Tocchet really was referring to, where Kyle Burroughs turns back behind his own net. That allowed Vegas to continue its pressure, and then Besser, he loses the puck behind the net, and then he lets Riley Smith get away, and Smith with the one-timer and scored. And so you could tell that Rick Tocchet was frustrated. Obviously, they weren't very good in the first period, and that game was essentially a story of two different games. I thought Vegas was really good, did what they had to do in the first period to build the 2-0 lead, and then it kind of felt like they were pretty comfortable up 2, and they wanted to see how would the Canucks respond. And ultimately, when JT Miller got the penalty shot and got them back within a goal, then it was game on. And over the final 40 minutes, the Canucks were good. I mean, score effects obviously take into account there. But I think the Canucks outshot Vegas 30-13 over the final 40 minutes after getting outshot 14-5. So all a work in progress here for Rick Tocchet. But Kuzmenko certainly was one of the guys, perhaps Beauvillier, who has gone a little bit quiet in the goal scoring department, but still, for the most part, that line, when they're spending most of their shifts in the offensive zone, but clearly there wasn't quite enough grit in the eyes of the head coach, so he decided to mix things up last night.
And maybe you just answered my second question regarding what Tocchet had to say. When it comes to the Canucks' identity, Jeff, he talked about his team's identity. Can you tell me what that identity is right now?
Well, he wants them to be aggressive on the forecheck, get in, turn pucks over, and get them to the skill guys, but this is still very much a work in progress. Did he have nothing but praise for the Vegas Golden Knights, the way that they play, and particularly that defense core. And I couldn't help but think that Rick Tocchet was looking over repeatedly and just sort of drooling about what Bruce Cassidy has to work with there on the other side. Starts with Alex Pietrangelo, who just logs a ton of ice time in all situations. And obviously Shea Theodore's a terrific player, but you got Alec Martinez, you got Braden McNabb, on and on it goes, Zach Whitecloud. They're big, they're strong, they can be physical, they've got championship pedigree and playoff experience and all that kind of stuff. That defense checks off so many of the boxes that the Canucks can only dream of. And you've got Quinn Hughes, and he's a nice piece, and Philip Hronek's now here, and maybe we see him as early as tomorrow night. I think Ethan Bear can be a part of what the Canucks are trying to put together, but that's three guys, and then the jury is still out on how you fill out the rest of the roster. And you look at that Vegas team, they don't have the best forwards. Like Jack Eichel's a point-a-game guy, and he can be a real talent, although They beat the Canucks without a single point from Eichel last night. And their goaltending, they felt that they had to go and upgrade, and they brought in Jonathan Quick, and he's been good for them so far. But the real strength of that Vegas team is 1 through 6. They just don't lean on Alex Pietrangelo. They've got support behind him. And again, I think that's the template in this West that is so wide open. I mean, there really are 6 teams still that could finish tops, but Vegas is there right now. They are the best team in the West. They've got designs on getting back to another Stanley Cup final. And if they do, I think it's going to be the fact that defense core is just so solid. There really is no weakness 1 through 6 on their back end.
Jeff, JT Miller, he's on a tear. I mean, he's been this guy takes a lot of heat in this market, but his play of late you cannot dispute. Under Tocchet, he's been really good.
Yeah, and he's been in on 7 straight goals. So absolutely, the offense is running through him. He's got that move, whether it's the shootout or the penalty shot last night. He's got that thing dialed in, certainly. But one of the things that I like about JT Miller right now, and it kind of feels like he's gained some pop on his fastball with his shot. Now, we have seen him use that power play move where he sort of circles high and attacks the net. But the goal that he scored to open the scoring in Anaheim the other night, the slap shot, like that was filled with rage. But there was nothing John Gibson could do about it. But I look at some of the other goals, Dallas, late in the game where Besser set him up and again picked his spot and snapped it home, the overtime winner against the Anaheim Ducks. Like there's some real zip on his shot. And I'd love the opportunity to talk to him here to see if there's anything that he's done of late. I mean, you don't put up 99 points and do what he did last year without being able to shoot the puck, and most of the guys at this level can. But when I look at his goals of late, like outside of the penalty shot, the common thread has just been like these laser beams from JT Miller. So absolutely, he's in a groove. Particularly on the penalty kill, and the fact that he's the first guy out on the penalty kill, that really seems to have reinvigorated him and just helped him dial in and dig into all these games. So he's cut down on the loud mistakes, and it's just been responsible with the puck for the most part. And on this tear that he's been on, Rick, with all due respect to Phil DiGiuseppe, who plays hard and plays that North-South game that Tocchet's looking for, but he's not a big offensive producer, even though he scored last night. And we know that Brock Besser has been sporadic in his scoring, and through it all, JT Miller has been terrific. So, it's a good story. The jury was out when they traded Bo Horvat away. They needed JT Miller to be that second-line center, and I think he has shown some flashes that he can take on that responsibility moving forward here.
Fascinated with Erotic and his debut, if it is tomorrow night. Not many people know much about this guy, Jeff. And they gave up a first and a second for him. And even when they got him, I had to kind of look at and where he's in Detroit, but he's not a name that sticks out and you go, oh, okay, yeah, they gave up a first and a second for him. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays down the stretch here.
Yeah, and I'm glad that there's enough runway here with a dozen games that, we're not going to see him for 1 or 2 if he can stay healthy, that I think he should be able to play the bulk of the games here. And I'm with you. Like, I can't sit here and tell you that I've got the full book on Filip Erotic, but, I think one of the things that'll surprise people is that maybe a little more physical than some people think when they look at the box score and you see that he's been pretty productive and has that element to his game that he can bring some offense. I'm curious how the Canucks are going to use him. I would think that you would want to sort of spread whatever depth that they've got. And now, if they're trailing in a game, could you pair him with Quinn Hughes and try and turbocharge a defense pair? Yeah, I think that's a card that Rick Tocchet could play. But yeah, this is a big change. Traded for the first time in his career. He's been hurt here, so he hasn't played in a couple of weeks. And, it's probably a nice starting point to face a team like San Jose, but then back out on the road, and the Canucks are in a compressed part of the schedule here. So he's going to have to get up to speed and do it in a hurry. But it's kind of like Christmas. You get a gift, and then you're not allowed to open it. But it looks like he's got the green light to go here. And so I'm curious, too, to see, will this back the Canucks off Quinn Hughes and his workload? He's a left side guy, and Ronik's going to come in on the right, obviously. But what'll it do in terms of just the usage of Quinn Hughes and how much they have been relying on him, but also how he's been thriving with this increased workload? Just can't get enough right now of Quinn Hughes. Clearly, Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote can't either, but playing his best hockey, I think, in his time in the National Hockey League, and that is saying something considering that they're trotting him out there 28 to 30 minutes a night on the regular.
Speaking of playing a lot, Thatcher Demko, coming off an injury, has started 8 of the Canucks' last 10 games. Is that too much given the entire situation, and not just his situation, but the situation the team's in right now?
Yeah, I think that there is a little bit of a danger of overworking him. I think for me, Don, it was all right, he's going to come back here. What does he look like? How long is it going to take him to regain his form if he does? But he showed early on that, the nobody wanted to see him get hurt. I'm sure he certainly didn't want to get hurt, but it felt like the layoff allowed him to heal up physically, but maybe mentally too, from the sluggish start to the season. So he has looked so much like Thatcher Demco of a year ago and bubble Thatcher Demco. But the danger for me is nights like Saturday in Los Angeles, where he was spectacular. But I don't think that you want to hang him out to dry and rely on him like that, because there was a sequence early in the third period there that reminded me so much of the sequence in which he got hurt against Florida back in December, where he's twisting and turning and forced to make 5 and 6 saves, in succession. That's the kind of stuff that I don't want to see him put in meaningless games down the stretch. I want him to get out of this season healthy, but have a baseline to take to the summer. No, there is that he still has to improve his game. But, it was the right call, obviously, to split the games on the weekend in Southern California. So we got a bit of a break there. They've got back-to-backs this weekend. I would think it would be the same plan, that he'll probably play tomorrow again on Saturday in Dallas, and then give him Sunday off in Chicago. But he came back with 23 games to go. In my mind, I was thinking 15 or 16 starts there. I hope it doesn't get to a point where he plays 18 or 19 of the remaining games, because I think he's proven to himself and to the team that, he's regained that elite form, but they just don't need to ride him into the dust here in games that ultimately have no significance in the big picture.
Sekeres and Price, Rink-Wide Podcast. Jeff, thanks so much for this. Talk to you next week.
All right, guys, thanks.
You bet. Jeff Paterson, again, from Sekeres and Price, Rink-Wide Podcast.